Hey, I'm Sven Masterson, one of the co-founders and mentors in the Mentoring Men community. And in this video, I want to begin talking to you about a subject we call sexless marriage. But before we do that, I want to give you some context, some background. Who am I? Why am I talking to you about this? And what does any of this have to do with mentoring, with men, etc.? Well, we established the Mentoring Men community as really a place to focus on the betterment and well-being of men. It's really that simple. We want to improve the lives of men all over the world, and by doing so, improve the world, because we believe that men living as their best creates opportunity for culture to experience our best. And so rather than sit around and kind of curse things that are going on in the world and being frustrated by toxicity and by destructive worldviews, we want to be a force, or we are a force in the world that is out there helping men to improve their sense of well-being, to better their lives, and in doing so, transform culture. Now, in that process, the way we end up connecting with a lot of men, unfortunately, is that men find us when they're in some sort of pain. It's usually relationship pain, or perhaps pain that is in some way related to their sense of self. But most men will generally find us when they're experiencing a relationship crisis of some kind. And so in the time we've been around, which has been about 3 years now, a number of men have found us in that time because they have resonated with something in our message. And a lot of those men have been men that are living in a sexless relationship or a sexless marriage. Now, clinically, if you were to Google sexless marriage, Google will usually return some sort of result that says a sexless marriage is a relationship or a marriage where the couple has sexual intercourse 10 times a year or less. Now, we don't particularly like that definition because we have met a number of men who would be in absolute ecstasy if they had sex 10 times a year, even 8 times a year, even 2 times a year. We meet lots of men who haven't had sex in decades. In fact, we've talked to men who haven't had sex ever in their relationship, for men who haven't had sex in 2, 3, 4, and even 5 decades. It's really not as uncommon as you might believe. In fact, other experts have said that by the clinical definition, it appears that maybe even up to 25% of marriages are meeting this definition. Now, we like our definition better, which is, are you sexually unhappy in your marriage? Are you unhappy and unfulfilled with the level of intimacy that you have in the marriage? Now, this gets kind of nuanced because the reality is there are men in the world, a very insecure, childish, and immature men, who might think, you know what, I have to have sex every day to be fulfilled and happy. Then there might be other people who say, I could just have sex once a year and be fulfilled and happy. And so we don't have the same answers for men in each context, but our desire is really to get to the heart of what's going on in a man's life. Why is this pain there? What is this lack of fulfillment about? And so we talk to men who really are just frustrated about the level of intimacy and connection, specifically sexually, in their relationship. And so that's how we came to be talking to you about this. In the process of doing that, we've talked to hundreds of men about relationships, about marriage, about sex, about sexuality, etc. And we've learned a few things. We've learned what oftentimes are patterns that are contributing to a man becoming or finding himself in a relationship that is sexless. We've learned a lot of those patterns, and being pattern-oriented people, myself coming from a long-term IT career, we've just started to say, you know what, there's something going on here. Like, every guy that we meet in this category tends to think this way, he tends to act this way, he tends to have these habits, he tends to have these ideas and beliefs. And so in acquiring that understanding, we want to share that with you. Now, we want to share that with you not in the hopes that this video or even our series of videos is going to turn your sexless marriage around. In fact, one of the patterns we have recognized in men with sexless marriage is that it's not an information problem, it's a transformation problem. And for most people, you can keep getting oodles and oodles and oodles of information, but information does not cause transformation on itself or on its own. What causes or leads to transformation is men being in relationship with transformed men. And so in our community, that's exactly what happens. Men have oftentimes come into a community, they've been exposed to men with maybe broader perspectives, different perspectives, men who have experienced success in an area that maybe some men haven't, men who can say, hey, this is what has worked for me in my long-term relationship. This is what has created connection. This is what has allowed intimacy to flourish. And it's those transformative relationships with other men that are really the catalyst for change. And so I want you to keep that in mind as you watch these videos, that these videos are not designed to answer all your questions about sexless marriage. They're not designed to fix your sexless marriage. They're simply videos that we want to share with you to begin to describe some of the patterns that we've seen behind sexless marriage and some of the patterns we've seen and who fixes it. What is usually going on in the lives of men who are able to turn it around. Now I'm saying that because people always critique YouTube videos as like, hey, you didn't say this, you forgot to say that. Now most of these are just ignorant, immature trolls who have nothing better to do than to critique the work of other people. But sometimes there are people who have, legitimate questions. They have different things they want to see. And they take it, a little bit personally or offensive that we fail to mention something, or that we don't spell out all of the steps to fix it. And so I'm going to say right up front, these videos will not tell you step by step how to fix your sexless marriage. If you want to do that, we would invite you to enter our community, set up sessions with us, talk to us, and we can spell that process out over a longer period of time. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, oh, they want my money. That's why they say a long period of time. No, it's not that. It's a matter of this, again, it happens in a relationship with transformed people, and transformed people and relationships with them do not just spring up and bear fruit in one day or in 1 hour. It took you probably a long time to get in a situation where your relationship went sideways and intimacy ended and you don't feel connected. And it's going to take some time to work that out. And because we're not a sales funnel or we're not a fancy kind of marketing oriented organization, we're not going to tell you can fix that in 90 days. In fact, I would be completely gobsmacked if you did. If you did, you'd be an exception. The reality is most men we work with are going to take a solid year to turn around a sexless marriage, maybe even 18 months. And it's not easy. It's hard work. It takes a lot of willingness to look deeply at yourself, to encounter yourself. It takes a lot of humility. It takes a lot of grit. And it's not for the faint of heart. And so just let me say that right away. All of that really needs to happen in a context of a community of people who will support you in that process. And that is what we're about. You can find more about that in the video description. I'm not going to get into that here. Instead, I'm going to just talk about this concept of sexless marriage. So let's begin first by just kind of identifying an overarching pattern in the work we have done with men that we've discovered about sexless marriage. And that pattern you might think of like a trident. Poseidon, he was a god of, I don't know, the sea or whatever. And Poseidon holds a trident in his hand. And tridents have 3 prongs. And so there's a trident that we have witnessed men who have overcome sexless marriages learn to grasp. And that trident has 3 prongs. And these are the 3 prongs and what we want to talk to you about in these videos. The first prong in the trident necessary to overcome a sexless marriage is improving your relationship with yourself. The second prong is improving or changing your relationship with sex. And the third prong is improving and changing your relationship with your partner. 3 prongs, let me repeat them again. Improving your relationship with yourself, improving or changing your relationship with sex and intimacy, and number 3, improving and changing your relationship with your partner. Those 3 prongs are all essential pieces in a man's quest to overcome a sexless marriage and return his relationship back to a place of vibrant and deeply connected intimacy. Those 3 prongs have been in 100% of every case we have watched where a man was able to do that. And so in the videos to follow, I'm going to spend some time unpacking each one of those prongs. Again, I'm not going to do that in great detail. If you want to get into that great detail, you can connect with me in a one-on-one session, or you can join our community and dive really deep into this over the course of months or years, and we can help you with that. These videos are just here to start planting the seeds of what is it going to take for you as a man in a sexless marriage to turn things around. And so with that, I'll wish you a good day, and I'll see you in those next videos where we talk about those 3 prongs. I'll see you soon. Take care.